Okay, in this video, I'm going to be going over how to do the calculations for an open delta auto transformer. But first, I'm going to be just going over the advantages and disadvantages of an auto transformer. So for your advantages, they would cost less. They're more efficient. They have better voltage regulation. They have better voltage regulation because they have a lower internal impedance. For the disadvantages, they have a higher fault current and dangerously high fault voltage. I can explain why. I'm just going to draw this. So let's say you have an auto transformer here, and let's say this is 2400 volts, and I don't know, this is 120. You have an opening here. What's going to happen is that since this is open, you're going to have current flowing through here in the smaller winding and then back. So it's going to take an alternate path, but that's a really bad thing because this is 2400 volts and it's flowing through 120 volt winding. So this winding isn't rated for 2400 volts. So that's going to be one of the dangers of auto transformers. Also, if you have like a bigger winding here, smaller winding here, let's do 208 volts and 240. So we're just going to step it down to 208 from 240. We have a break here. That's going to cause high voltage across this break because this this portion, the small winding here, is going to induce a voltage into this this bigger winding because since this is open, the core, there's no flux in this winding's core, right? So that means that there's like no cancellation of flux. So that means this smaller winding is actually going to induce its flux into the larger winding's core, which will induce a high voltage through this portion of the winding, and then it will allow high voltage to break across this open, and that's another danger of an auto transformer. Yeah, so now I'm going to go on to the calculations. Basically, this is how you would wire it up, like an open delta, except you just have this this portion tapping onto the B line. So this question is basically saying that we're given a 600 volt delta motor, but we wanted a 480 volt one. So basically our supply is 480, but we have a 600 volt motor, and we need to find out how we can supply it using two single phase transformers, right? And how we're going to do it is basically we're just going to connect it in open delta and use the boost to add it up to 600, right? Because 480 plus 120 equals 600. So we can use this boost configuration to supply this 600 volt motor that we're given. And I think I also did this wrong. This is supposed to be in parallel because you want the low voltage setting, not the high voltage setting, because if it was 240, it would be too high of a voltage. It would be over 600 volts. So we want to go, because this is x1, x2, so this is the secondary. So the secondary has to be low voltage, which is in parallel. Primary has to be in high voltage, 480, so that is in series. Okay, so that basically answers this question. Now this is asking what the maximum load of each transformer would be capable of supplying. So each of these would be capable of supplying. It's not 10 kVA because this is like an auto transformer, and it's boosting, right? So that boost is actually going to be able to allow it to supply much more than what it says here. So first of all, the red is just going to be like answering this question, and I'll just explain all this out later. So first of all, like an open delta, you want to use a single phase. Just imagine it as a single phase transformer. We're not going to use root 3 because we're missing a transformer here, right? So that's not going to work. It's not in the same circumstance where we would have 3 transformers here. So we're going to use, imagine it as a single phase transformer, right? Because these are each single phase transformers. So 10 kVA over 120, 83.33 amps, and it would be flowing through here because this winding is rated for 10 kVA here, right? So we got 10 kVA for this winding, and it's rated 120 volts. What's the max current can flow through here? 83.33 amps. All right. Now, once we found this, well, we pretty much just got the answer for the question, because now we know the current flowing to the motor, and we know the voltage of the motor, right? And with that, we can find the kVA, right? That's the kVA. We use root 3 times 600 volts times 83.33 amps. We use root 3 because this is three-phase motor. If you look at it like this, here's the motor. And we got one line here, one here, here. It's three-phase motor. Yeah, so we got 86.6 kVA. We want to find the kVA that each transformer can supply. Well, we just divide it by 2 because we have 2 transformers. And you get 43.3 kVA. And that's much larger than that 10 kVA rating of it. And like I said, it's because it's an auto transformer, and this boosting allows it to do that. All right, now I'm gonna go over, if you want to find the current for, this winding and the supply, it's the same thing for here. This is 10 kVA, right? Same transformer, 10 kVA, 480 volts. What can we do with this? Well, we gotta remember it's an open delta, so we just think about it as a single phase transformer. 10 kVA, and then we have 480 volts. And we get 20.43 amps going down. Alright, now we want to find the current in the supply right here. So since this is 3-phase, right? We've got 3 phases here. 1, 2, 3. We're going to use 86.6 kVA over root 3 times 480, and we get 104.16 amps. And it's flowing this direction. The reason why I use 86.6 kVA here and here is because it's the rule of transformers kVA in, kVA out. So they're going to be the same. So same kVA on the motor and on the supply. All right, and that gives you this current. Also, there's like a relationship between these 3 currents. You can find the common current, which is in this here. This is the common winding, by just subtracting these 2, and then you're given this. Or if you want to find this, you just subtract these 2, and you're given that, right? So I can find each of those. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Also, another thing to note is that these can actually be reversed. So this can actually be the load, and this can be the supply if you want to, because this is a boost configuration. It's boosting the voltage up from the supply. But if you want a buck configuration, this would be the supply, and you would be reducing the voltage. So this would actually be reducing the voltage. This winding would be reducing the voltage to 480 here. So if you had a 600 volt supply and you had a 480 motor, well, you just have to use the buck configuration. So this winding would be taking away voltage, and we'd be left with 480. So it would be like 600 minus 120, 480, right? So it can either go both ways. That's just another thing to know, but that's pretty much it.